So there's many ways you can get rich. As I said, a very popular one today is work hard, cut up your credit card, save money, live frugally. That's not my choice. That's a very middle-class choice. It's not the way I want to live. Another way you can get very rich is you can marry somebody for their money. And that's a very popular sport, but many people do marry for money, both men and women. In fact, I do know a lot of people, they won't never admit this, but they wouldn't marry somebody who was not making a lot of money. And money is a factor in relationships too, because it affects your health, your kids' education, affects where you live and all this. So money does affect that. So marrying for money is a very popular sport also. Another way you can get rich is by being a crook. You can get rich by being a crook. The problem is you're still a crook. As my rich dad said to me, it's easier to make a lot of money out of jail than in jail. So I don't recommend that process also. And the other way to be rich is by being generous and being smart. And that's what this program is designed to impart to you, is that you can be rich by being a generous person and being financially intelligent. See, the point here is this. If you look at an income statement and balance sheet, you will see that with every dollar that comes into your hand, you have the choice. It is in your power. If you go and buy another long-term liability, then you're a middle-class person who will work harder and harder going further in debt. If you just blow the money, like go and buy a new shirt or a new stereo or something, then you're acting like a poor person. Money just goes right out the expense column. But if you're smart and you use that dollar to acquire an asset, either a business, some real estate, or some paper assets such as bonds, mutual funds, things like this, you're becoming a rich person. The point I want to make here is this. The choice is in your hands every single day. Every morning I get up and I make that decision. Every morning you get up and you make that decision. Every day if you get up, so I'm just going to work hard and I'm going to spend all my money. You're thinking like a poor person. If you get up and you say, oh boy, today is payday, I'm going to go out and go shopping, put some things on my credit card, maybe buy a bigger house, then you're thinking like a middle-class person. But if you get up and you say, this dollar is very important because I worked hard for it, and I'm going to make sure I keep it. See, my rich dad said financial intelligence is not so much how much money you make, but how much money you keep, how hard that money works for you, and for how many generations you pass it on to. Then you're thinking like a rich person. So the point I make here is this. Every morning I get up, I still need to make that choice. It's not been an easy choice, but I still need to make that choice.
He teaches people to become millionaires. Today, hear his money-making secrets.
It was life-changing and just woke me up.
Went from 48 to 100,000 1 year.
What do the rich teach their children about money that the poor and middle class do not? Robert Kiyosaki teaches people to be millionaires. He teaches people to be millionaires. That's how he earned the nickname the millionaire school teacher. And he says that the rich have a very different way of thinking about money that anybody can learn. His book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, has been on the New York Times business bestseller list for 8 months, and his unique advice may change the way you look at your money. This is a really important show. If you like money, if you need money, if you'd like to have some money, this is a show for you. Take a look.
I've been rich and I've been poor, and I like rich much better. I found out that the secret to success is not hard work or luck. I found a new way of thinking that works for me. Do you remember these here? These are nylon and Velcro surfer wallets. When I was 26, I began marketing these products worldwide, and that's how I became a millionaire before I was 30. Besides building businesses, I also invest in stocks as well as real estate. I was able to retire at the age of 47. Today, I teach other people how to build businesses or to be investors. I must say I owe much of my financial success to a man I call my rich dad, who was my childhood best friend's father. He made me realize that there's a very big difference between what the rich teach their kids about money, that the poor don't teach their kids about money. My real dad, or my biological father, was the head of education for the state of Hawaii. I call him my poor dad simply because he was a high-paid government official. He made a lot of money, yet at the end of every month he was broke. My rich dad, on the other hand, was my best friend's father, and he ultimately became one of the wealthiest men in the state of Hawaii. And by the way, my rich dad was a high school dropout. One dad had a habit of saying, I can't afford it. My rich dad, on the other hand, forbade his son and I from ever saying I can't afford it. My poor dad always said, our house is an asset, and it's our largest investment. My rich dad said, your house is not an asset, it's a liability, and if it's your largest investment, you're in financial trouble. My poor dad believed in job security. He said, look for a company that had excellent pay, good benefits such as medical, vacation, and other types of perks. My rich dad said that that entitlement mentality kept people financially weak and financially needy. My poor dad always said, find a safe, secure job and work your way up the corporate ladder. My rich dad said, why not just own the ladder? I decided to listen and learn from my rich dad, and the rest is history.
Well, let's go through some more of Robert's points about what he says. The rich teach their children that the poor and middle class do not. Main difference, you say, between the rich and poor lies in what we teach our children about
That's
money.
correct.
Really?
Very much.
And it's a mentality. It's a total way of thinking, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And it's really easy to change if you're willing to change the way you think. For instance, my poor dad was a very good man. For Japanese, he was 6'4", very smart, academic genius. But he always said to me, you know, go to school, get good grades, get a job, and work hard. Save money. And my rich dad said, well, if you want to be rich, that's not the way you do it. And instead of working for money, my rich dad taught me how to have money work hard for me. And that's why I've only had a job 4 years of my entire life. Other than that, I'm building companies or I'm investing, and that's all I'm doing.
Well, the subject of money is taught at home, not in school, you say, because most of us learn about money from our parents, and it's only good if you have a rich dad mentality.
My message to people is, you know, why struggle for money when you don't have to? You know, it's that really simple if you have good advice. The problem is money is not taught in school. And so what we do is we oftentimes follow in our parents' footsteps. We may do different jobs, but we oftentimes follow in the same financial patterns. And my rich dad used to say, you know, he says, you can't end poverty by giving somebody money. Giving a poor person money keeps them poor longer.
Yeah.
And that's what breaks my heart, because I want to help people
change the way they think about money.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
And I think one of the most important things is that I noticed between my rich dad and my poor dad was the vocabulary. My poor dad was a PhD in education, very smart man, but he had the vocabulary of a school teacher. And my rich dad had the vocabulary of a rich man. And so when I say to people, what's the first
What do you mean by vocabulary?
Well,
I know what the word means, but
right.
what kind of vocabulary?
Well, I used to sit around the dinner table and listen to both dads, and one would talk about algebra and geometry and trigonometry. Nothing that ever made me any money. Mm-hmm. And my rich dad would sit there and he'd talk about return on investment, assets, liabilities, discounted cash flows, etc.
And a lot of people use, you know, what you just said about your house is a liability, it's not an asset. Most people think it is their biggest investment.
Yes, and that's one of the biggest middle-class traps. They say, my banker says my house is an asset. And my rich dad would say, if you can read a financial statement, you'll see, you can read that your house is actually a liability. I'm not saying don't buy a house, and I like big houses, and I like the finer things of life. Just don't call a liability an asset. And what's trapping the middle class is they're buying liabilities they think are assets.
Paul Rogers says he changed from a poor dad to a rich dad, and now wakes up every day with a new outlook on life. Here's what Paul's story is. Paul Rogers, a divorced father of two, was making $48,000 a year as a firefighter and living paycheck to paycheck.
By the time I'd paid the house payment, the child support, the car payment, food and utilities, with the two kids, it was really tough.
Last year, Paul discovered Robert Kiyosaki's financial plan.
He stresses three main things. Number one, set up a home-based business. Number two, get control of your taxes. Number three, take that extra income and buy more assets with it.
He followed the steps and set up his own home-based business. It was easier than he thought and only cost him $300. With that extra income from his new home business and a pay raise from the firehouse of $300 a month, he started to buy homes that were in foreclosure.
You can purchase them under value, go in, carpet, paint them, fix them up, turn and sell them, and even make more money.
With the money he made from selling those houses, Paul bought stocks, mutual funds, IRAs, and even set up an educational account for his children.
It has changed my outlook on life because this has given me more time freedom with my kids and more financial freedom. And the best thing is my income's gone from about $48,000 to a little over $100,000 in a one-year period.
Wow.
Wow.
I bet you're impressed with yourself.
I'm impressed with Rich Dad, Poor Dad in the book. It's just an unbelievable book. You're going to have a great response from all your viewers on this.
Really, you sound like an infomercial, but we're not. So it obviously has changed your life, your outlook, and what you will now pass on to your children.
Yeah, really, the educational system that I had growing up didn't teach me about debt, credit card debt, liabilities, college loans, you know, getting that fancy car right out of school. But what Britt and Chelsea are learning now is that, hey, you know, make your money work for you, don't work for money. So it's been a big life-changing experience for me.
So what exactly, because now people are going, what exactly caused you to go from 48 to 100 in a year?
Well, that's a very good question. I think what it was, number one, I sat down and I actually wrote out what my goals were and what my dreams were, and I had never done that before. And when I actually wrote those on paper, I said to myself, well, how am I going to get there? What do I need to do? And that's what probably a lot of the viewers are going to say, yeah, this all sounds good, but tell me the answer. Well, the answer for me was I set up a home-based business. By doing so, it only cost me $300. I'm generating income from that and taking that income, buying real estate, put it in to the stock market, stuff like that. Buying more assets in my life and having my money work for me.
But you also kept your other job.
I'm still a full-time fireman. I plan on keeping that. I thoroughly enjoy my job.
Yeah. We love firemen.